For years, the world has watched China build its military power around Taiwan. Every exercise, satellite image, and speech by Xi Jinping has been scrutinized for signs that Beijing is ready to move. Much of that conversation traces back to 2021, when Admiral Philip Davidson, then commander of US Indo-Pacific Command, warned that China could attempt to seize the island by 2027. Almost overnight, that assessment turned into an unofficial countdown to war. But if China truly intends to invade Taiwan by 2027, signs of large-scale preparation should already be visible. So far, however, there has been no nationwide mobilization, no large-scale conversion of civilian industry, and no logistical buildup on the scale an invasion would demand. Yes, China continues to modernize at a remarkable pace, but modernization is not the same as mobilization. So, Beijing may be willing to wait not because Taiwan has become less important or because the Chinese leadership has abandoned reunification, but because Chinese policymakers believe that every year without conflict shifts the balance further in their favor. In other words, time is on China's side. That points to a deeper misunderstanding about Taiwan. The question is not when China will invade, but whether it needs to invade at all. Today's video is sponsored by War Thunder, the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. War Thunder is available on PC, consoles, and mobile devices. The game has an arsenal of more than 2,500 historically accurate tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships from the 1920s to the present day. What I enjoy most about it is the way the combined arms is played out, with air, ground, and naval vehicles interacting with one another. Every vehicle is incredibly detailed and modeled down to its individual components. All this powered by incredible graphics and detail in 4K resolution, backed by great music, sound effects, and realistic physics. Best of all, it's free. So, play War Thunder now using the link on the screen. New and returning players on PC and consoles that haven't played in the last 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack that includes multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account. For China's Communist Party, Taiwan is where the Civil War never really ended. You see, in 1949, when Mao Zedong's communist units took control of the mainland and founded the People's Republic of China, Chiang Kai-shek's nationalist government retreated to Taiwan. And that's been the stalemate ever since, with both governments claiming to represent all of China. Today, Beijing continues to insist there is only one China and that Taiwan is an inseparable part of it. Taiwan, meanwhile, has evolved into a thriving democracy with its own government, military, currency, and independent institutions. Although only a small number of countries formally recognize Taiwan as a sovereign state, it functions independently in almost every practical sense. For Xi Jinping, reunification forms part of what he calls the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. It is discussed less as policy and more as a historic calling, as if it's the country's own version of manifest destiny. So why would a leader who has amassed more power than any Chinese leader in centuries postpone a mission that he repeatedly describes as sacred and inevitable? Well, China doesn't simply want Taiwan. It wants Taiwan without paying the immense price of taking it by force. And that distinction changes everything. Much of the debate surrounding Taiwan assumes Beijing is racing against the clock. But Chinese officials may see the situation very differently. Rather than asking, "Can we take Taiwan today?" they appear to be asking, "Will taking Taiwan become easier tomorrow?" An amphibious assault across the Taiwan Strait would be one of the most complex operations ever attempted. The island's western coast offers only a few landing sites, while beyond, dense urban areas and rugged mountains give the defender an advantage. Even so, getting ashore would only be the beginning. By the way, the layers you're seeing, the infrastructure, demographics, land cover and bathymetry are all real. We pulled them directly from Delta Sweep, our own open source intelligence platform. It brings the geospatial data together with live news, military activity, markets, and other signals. You can explore it for yourself at deltasweep.com. Anyway, victory on the battlefield could create a much larger political crisis, which would then bring about sweeping economic sanctions, severe disruptions to global trade, major financial instability, and, perhaps most dangerously, direct US military intervention. That final point, and the ambiguity surrounding it, shapes Beijing's strategy deeply so. If America stays out, China is far more likely to win. If Washington intervened, however, the conflict could quickly escalate into a direct standoff between the world's two most powerful militaries, with ramifications extending far beyond East Asia. For Beijing, that is a terrifying gamble. In that sense, reunification would count for little if it wrecked China's economy and decades of growth. An invasion under those conditions would do more harm than good. This then explains why Chinese leaders often describe reunification as inevitable rather than urgent. Beijing believes that the longer it waits, the stronger its position becomes. Its economy already dwarfs that of Taiwan. Its industrial base is still growing, and its navy and missile forces are getting stronger by the day. At the same time, Chinese officials see an America distracted by conflicts abroad and political division at home. Whether that's actually true is almost secondary. What matters is that the Chinese believe it. And so, seen this way, China is holding back out of confidence, not hesitation. Most discussions about Taiwan focus on warships, aircraft, and missiles. But Beijing has spent decades building other forms of pressure below the threshold of war, from economic coercion and diplomatic isolation to political influence, information campaigns, and military exercises. Individually, none of these can force Taiwan's surrender, but together they can shape the environment in which Taiwan makes decisions. The objective is subtle but profound: to increase the costs of permanent separation while making engagement with mainland China appear increasingly unavoidable. In other words, Beijing wants to change Taiwan's behavior before it changes the map. It's a strategy that is as much coercive as it is psychological. Every military exercise around Taiwan serves a purpose beyond training. When PLA aircraft cross the median line of the Taiwan Strait, or when naval task groups operate nearby, or even when Chinese missile forces conduct drills around the island, the immediate goal is not necessarily invasion, but to normalize that level of pressure. Each exercise makes the next seem more routine, and once something becomes normal, it loses much of its political impact. Analysts call this strategic conditioning. But China also understands the limits of military pressure. Force alone cannot reshape political identity. Taiwan today is profoundly different from the Taiwan of 30 years ago. An entire generation has grown up under a democratic political system. Surveys conducted over many years consistently show that most people prefer to maintain the status quo, while relatively few support unification with mainland China. At the same time, a growing share of the population identifies primarily as Taiwanese rather than Chinese. For Beijing, that cultural trend creates a long-term complication. Military pressure by itself cannot make people feel more Chinese, which is why China has turned to economic and political influence. Since the late 1980s, Beijing has encouraged deeper economic integration across the Taiwan Strait. Millions of Taiwanese have lived and worked on the mainland, while businesses have built supply chains spanning both economies. From Beijing's perspective, economic interdependence makes political separation more costly, and that same principle applies to politics. China keeps close tabs on Taiwanese elections, not because it controls the outcome, but because elections expose political fault lines. Some parties want closer ties with the mainland, while others push for greater distance and stronger links with democratic partners. Those contrasts give Beijing room to adjust its response selectively, applying pressure in some areas while offering incentives in others. The problem for Beijing is that pressure can easily backfire. Push too hard, and it may strengthen Taiwanese identity, ease off too much, and the current situation may become permanent. Balancing between those competing intentions is tricky, which is precisely why Beijing often moves between pressure and engagement. And so, much of China's restraint policy depends on two major unknowns. The first is the assumption that tomorrow will offer better opportunities than today, that time works in its favor. Of course, there is no guarantee this assumption will prove correct. China has problems of its own. Economic growth has slowed sharply from the highs of previous decades, while the property sector faces deep structural issues. At the same time, birth rates have fallen, and the population is aging rapidly. Like other advanced economies in East Asia, China must now contend with demographic decline alongside slower economic growth. These new realities will not weaken China overnight, but they could eventually convince it that time is no longer on its side. The second major unknown lies thousands of kilometers away. For decades, US policy has rested on what is commonly referred to as strategic ambiguity. Washington supports Taiwan's defense but avoids an explicit guarantee of military intervention. That uncertainty is deliberate. It discourages Beijing from using force while reminding Taipei that American military backing is not unconditional. Successive US administrations have kept that balance in place. However, China constantly reassesses America's posture. Every election, defense budget, arms sale, or statement could tip the scales. If in the near future, Chinese leaders reckon that American intervention is unlikely, they may see greater room to act. Military pressure is often seen in binary terms, either peace or war. But there is a spectrum of coercive measures in between, from maritime inspections and cyber attacks to economic restrictions, airspace controls, legal pressure, and limited blockades. Each of these can exert pressure, but without the political baggage of a full-scale invasion. And so, rather than launching an outright amphibious assault, China may prefer to apply pressure gradually. Doing so offers a clear advantage. It forces other governments to make the difficult decisions. More precisely, it forces Washington and Taiwan's other partners to decide how far China can go before they respond. After all, at what point does gradual coercion justify a military response, and when does it simply become the new normal? The international community is often more willing to accept changes that unfold gradually than those imposed all at once, and that tendency may work strongly in China's favor. So, this brings the discussion back to the central question: when will China invade Taiwan? Well, for now, there are no signs of military mobilization, and Beijing appears to be in no hurry. Whether that patience pays off will only become clear in years to come. Sometimes history is shaped long before the first shot is fired, by those who know how to turn time into a weapon. Before we close, one final note on Delta Sweep. All the maps and data you saw in this video came directly from the platform. The tracker brings together well over 1,000 foreign military bases, along with thousands of active power plants, airports, critical mineral sites, and other infrastructure points around the world. That kind of information is central to military analysis because it helps show where forces are based, how they can be supplied, and where the pressure points may lie. You can explore it for yourself, alongside live news, military activity, markets, and other signals at deltasweep.com. Thank you for your time and Saul.